faraway kingdom stood a magnificent castle where Snow White, Prince Antoine, and the 7 loyal dwarfs lived together. One bright morning, Snow White and Prince Antoine went for a horseback ride to enjoy the fresh air, while the 7 dwarfs chose to take a walk in the lush green forest. Behind the tall trees, a small dwarf girl with white hair and a sweet face was peeking out, filled with fear. Her name was Lila. She felt anxious seeing the castle guards and the large horses, so she hid tightly. Lila had gotten lost while looking for the home of the 7 dwarfs, who now lived with Snow White in the castle. Meanwhile, deep inside a dark cave, the evil Queen Hela and her assistant Dunkov were trying to find a way to restore Queen Hela to her human form. They read from an ancient spellbook and discovered a magical potion. The kiss of a young prince could break the curse. With the magical incantation, Dunkov transformed into a handsome prince and kissed a frog that turned into a human. However, cunning and deceitful Queen Hela immediately reverted Dunkov back to his original form. One day, Queen Hela noticed muddy footprints on the cave floor. Carefully, she followed them and discovered Lila hiding. "Hello, who are you? What are you doing here?" asked Queen Hela. Lila replied fearfully, "I got lost, and I'm looking for a place to stay. I want to meet the 7 dwarfs." Queen Hela smiled slyly. "I can help you. But listen carefully. The 7 dwarfs now live with Snow White in the castle. They are busy and might not care if you get lost in the forest." She showed a magical crystal ball that revealed how happy the 7 dwarfs were in the castle. Feeling lonely and wanting to be accepted, Lila listened as Queen Hela handed her a magical handkerchief, promising that if Lila gave it to Snow White and brushed it through her hair, Snow White would invite her to be a friend and live in the castle. Unaware of the danger hidden in the handkerchief, Lila set off for the castle. Along the way, a colorful bird flew by and dropped a magical feather into Lila's hand. When she placed the feather in her hair, her white hair transformed into sparkling golden locks. When the 7 dwarfs returned from the mine, they were astonished to see Lila's shimmering golden hair and invited her to the castle. Snow White welcomed Lila warmly and prepared a room for her. However, when Lila brushed the magical handkerchief through Snow White's hair, it suddenly turned white, and her face became old and wrinkled. The 7 dwarfs acted quickly, took the handkerchief, and threw it into a small pond in the garden. Lila cried and apologized for unintentionally hurting Snow White. Snow White smiled gently. "I know you meant no harm." Seeing the magical feather in Lila's hair, Snow White asked her to touch it to her own hair. Slowly, Snow White's beauty and youth returned, and her smile filled the castle. "Thank you, Lila," Snow White said. "Remember, never take anything from someone you don't know, and always trust in the goodness of your heart." From that day on, Lila became part of the castle family and lived happily with Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. Far away, Queen Hela growled in frustration. "Why do I never win? Why is Snow White always safe